We just got done building a table for our room, which matches up really perfectly because we are trying to kind of build ourselves up to the point where we can kind of create our own room scenes. So we do have a structure, we do have a piece of furniture. Now we're gonna be taking a little bit of a departure here. I'm gonna have you folks create a spaceship, which feels a little bit like a reach, but this particular activity will allow us to continue to get used to using the extrude tool and extruding out pieces from a singular object. This will also give us the chance to kind of take an object and smooth them out. Yeah, so if you can take a look at these two spaceships on the side, this is the same model. The only difference though is that whereas we started off with a very angular spaceship, later on we can actually literally increase the number of spaces, which will make things look more organic and then even more organic. And but yeah, exact same structure. There's no additional building that goes into these other two versions of this original spaceship. So anyway, we'll kind of get into that. Let me go ahead and delete these three original spaceships. Yeah, we're gonna start off at on our basics. Yeah, now much like the table, we're gonna start off utilizing our cubes. Yeah, so that'll be our base shape. I'm gonna go back into my create menu. We're gonna go with polygon primitives, and again, remember whenever we're starting off with a cube, you do want to probably take a look at the main um, settings. Yeah, so I'm gonna go to the square next to cube. Take a look at these. I do have some other settings in here. Look like these settings are a little bit more of a match for something for the room. So I'm gonna put these all set at one. Your width division, height division, and depth divisions are also set at one. Yeah, so if you can go ahead and double check and make sure that that's set to this. If you do have all of these settings already, you can go ahead and click on create. Yeah, and now we have our cube that shows up in the middle. Again, this is exactly what we did when we start off our table. Okay, next thing we're gonna do though is we are gonna go to our shadow box or our outliner. Yeah, and go ahead and name this. So this is gonna be just kind of declaring what we're going to be creating out of this. Right now it looks like it's a cube, but we are going to turn this into a manta ray ship. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in as the naming. Okay, as far as the structure goes, I am going to start off bringing this cube up above the grid. Yeah, and then we can kind of have it floating. I mean, it is a spaceship, so I guess that works. I'm then going to go into my scale tool. Yeah, so remember we can either go to this button right here, or you can just press the R key. And then let's go ahead and scale it. I'm probably going to scale it maybe about um, like three times as long. So like if you had three of your original cube right by each other, yeah. So something like this would work out pretty well. Okay, so this is the main structure of your spaceship. Again, doesn't look like much, but now we're gonna start doing our extruding and creating a lot of that like dynamic look to it. Okay, so I'm gonna right click on this. Right now I'm headed to the back. Yeah, so I am headed to the back of the model. I'm gonna click on this back face right here. Okay, and then we're gonna jump immediately into extrude. Yeah, so again, right click, go into face mode, select this back face. We are gonna then go extrude. Remember, we can access this in one of two ways. You can either go to edit mesh extrude, or you can do a command E. Either way will work out pretty well. Okay, I'll start off with this one. So I'll do my edit mesh extrude right there. Okay, and I'm gonna bring out a second section. Yeah, so here's our second section, and again, I'm gonna keep it like cubish. Yeah, so keep it kind of cubish right here. Now this is where this is going to be basically the backside of the spaceship. Yeah, so I'm going to kind of scale this down. So after bringing this out, I'm then going to go to my R key. Yeah, and that'll get me back into my scale. And I'm just going to scale this down just so that in the back end, yeah, the spaceship's butt is like a little bit on the thinner side. All right, now the other thing we're gonna do, and this is like kind of drawing inspiration from the manta ray, is we are gonna have a little bit of a tail back here. Now we're gonna do a setup extrude first. Yeah, so I'm gonna do an extrude right here, and then we're just gonna set up the tail so that's not growing directly out of the back of the spaceship as far as like the at the edges. Yeah, I want it kind of like framed up a little bit. So I did a command E. I'm then going to click on one of these cubes on the outside. Doesn't matter which one, yeah, but remember that gets you to the scale tool within the extrude tool. I'm going to then scale this to the left, yeah, and what this is going to do is, again, create that picture frame. It's going to be an unusual one. This picture frame extrude is basically just going to be a very small picture in a very large frame, yeah. All right, okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to extrude this out. So again, we're going to edit mesh extrude or Command E, and then bring out this new piece. Yeah, so it's up to you how long you want the tail to be. Yeah, I wouldn't go too overboard though, but obviously, yeah, you can kind of customize your spaceship in this way. The other thing we're going to kind of do is we're going to scale down this tip so that it's a little bit more pointy. So once again, we can click on one of the cubes within the extrude tool. Yeah, so I'll click on the red one over here, get that light blue one and drag it to the left. And again, we'll end up with kind of a pointy tail right there. Okay, now this is one of those things you can kind of zoom in multiple times and it'll just get thinner and thinner and thinner. Yeah, but yeah, that'll get us to our pointy side. Okay, all right, and that's gonna be pretty much our setup for the back. Yeah, so now we can head to the front. If you notice with the spaceship previously, or the spaceship initial example, we do have like this little hole in the front that could probably work as like a cannon or something. So I'm gonna still in my face mode, yeah, in the front. I'm gonna select that face at the front. Once again, I'm going to extrude, okay, and then once again we're gonna do a picture frame extrude, yeah. So I'm gonna click on one of the cubes, yeah. So again, red cube, green cube, blue cube, doesn't matter, but we want that like blue cube in the middle and drag it to the left, yeah. Okay, and this is gonna be your frame for the front. Okay, now we're gonna resist the temptation to click on the arrow and push that in, because if you remember, anytime you do something like that, it's gonna make your model look very, very flimsy. Yeah, so we do want to kind of keep this thickness on the outside. But if we do a second extrude here, yeah, so if we do our edit mesh extrude, okay, and bring that back, okay, all of a sudden now we kind of have a lot more structure, yeah, on the outside, so it looks a lot better. Okay, the other thing you probably want to keep in mind is you could kind of bring this back. I would probably suggest stopping before you get to the end of this section. This is what happens if you keep going. Yeah, obviously Maya will let you do that. However, you also notice that we kind of get our black surfaces, which is the inside of our faces. That's to let you know that, oh, you're kind of defying the laws of physics. Yeah, and here we go. Yeah, pushing our way through out the back. Yeah, through multiple sections. Yeah, so and multiple faces and edges and so forth. So we're not going to do that. We can kind of stop off right over here. Okay, all right, so now we have our spaceship. Right now it may look a little bit more tadpole-ish than anything else. Okay, so we definitely still have some work to make this look manta ray-ish. Our next step is now we're going to work on both the left and the right side at the same time. So I'm going to ask you to select one side. Yeah, and again, we're still in our face mode. Yeah, so we're still in our face mode, but if you can select the right face, and then if you can rotate around, we're then going to select our second one by holding down shift and clicking on that second one. Yeah, and make sure you do a double check all the way around. Make sure you have your second face on the opposite side, but also make sure that you don't have any additional faces anywhere else selected. Okay, so I did my check, yeah, and remember that's gonna be a habit you guys want to make sure you guys maintain, yeah. We're then going to do our extrude, yeah. So again, Command E. I'm going to the menu. It just helps like visually for the tutorial at least. And then your extrude tool will then show up, kind of like with the table. If you remember, it's going to show up on the face that is the most the first thing that you selected. Okay, so yours may be happen to be on the other side. No problem. Yeah, remember though when you take the arrow. Yeah, so I'm gonna go find the blue arrow that's going in the X direction and bring that out. Okay, what should happen is what you do on the one side will then be mirrored on the opposite side. Yeah, so you should end up with something like this. Okay, again, not very aesthetically pleasing. Looks like we've made our Amazon Prime box. Yeah, so we're getting someplace, but we definitely want to continue to manipulate the look of this. Yeah, so like just to make it aerodynamic, a lot of aerodynamic the look is like just to kind of curve things. So I'm gonna go and actually find this cube on the bottom, so the green cube. Yours may actually be facing upwards, yeah, but doesn't really matter. If you can go ahead and click on the green cube and drag it towards the center, so you're gonna kind of drag it towards the center. And as you do this, you're gonna notice, like especially from the front, it's gonna look a lot more appealing. And then we're also gonna do the same thing from front to back. So if you can go ahead and find the red cube, and we're going to click and drag that as well. And here we go. Okay, so now we have a lot more curve. Yeah, has a much nicer look to it. Okay. All right, now the next thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna set up our wings. Yeah, so our wings are actually going to be slightly separated. We could just do an extrude and just grow them out, but they're not gonna look that good. So we're kind of gonna do another setup extrude. This time it's gonna be a little bit different from our picture frame extrude still. So I'm gonna do a another extrude here. Okay, and then notice again we still have both faces selected. Yeah. Um, and what we can do here is we're going to create what's called a sandwich extrude. Yeah, so basically what we need is I'm going to get the green cube. I'm going to drag this up. And the sandwich extrude refers to we have this top piece of bread, we have a bottom piece of bread, and then we have something in the middle. Could be jelly, could be an egg, could be spam. Yeah. But yeah, as long as you have two pieces of bread and then something in the middle, yeah, you should be all good. All right. Okay, now remember, this is another setup extrude, kind of like with the picture frame. So our next step is not going to be as follows, as tempting as it's going to be. Yeah, don't just grow this out, because again, we're going to kind of defeat the purpose of what we're doing, which is to make this look a little bit more sleek. Yeah, so instead, we're going to do another extrude, right? So we have both of these faces selected. I'm going to do my second extrude. Okay, and then this time we're going to get the blue arrow. Yeah, but remember now, this is going to be an entirely new extrude. Yeah, so it's going to have the wings kind of drop and have like a little bit of leeway at the top and the bottom. Yeah, so it's just going to look immediately better. Yeah, now not the best. Yeah, what you probably notice is as we're bringing this out is like, oh wow, it just kind of looks like we're stapling lumber to the left side and the right side of the spaceship. Yeah, okay, but no problem. We can definitely kind of create a lot more of an aerodynamic look. So number one, we're gonna thin out the faces at the corners. So that's gonna be the green cube. Yeah, so if you can click on that, just thin it out a little bit. I'm not actually gonna get it to like where it's super pointy. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have it so that it doesn't look as 2x4-ish. So I'm going to click on this cube, the red cube, yeah, for the scale that in as well. Okay, and then now we kind of have, yeah, it's getting thinner as it moves further and further away from the body, which is good. Okay, last thing we're going to do, yeah, and this may not work for everybody, so actually is like you can try to push this red arrow back, yeah, and that'll create the wings going backwards, and kind of push this down. Yeah, now what you'll notice is it may end up doing something like this where it kind of like flips on you. Yeah, and then look at that. Yeah, it's doing a little dance. Yeah, not the best look when we're doing that. So one other option you have is when you're selecting both of these, and I would highly suggest like you Command Z and kind of jump out and try this out, is if you go into your move tool, yeah, so remember that's your W, or you can press this button right here. Yeah, so we'll press W. Okay, and then what that's going to do is you're still going to have your two faces at the end selected, but your manipulator moves towards the center. Yeah, and the move tool kind of does that. It'll always try to stay centered depending on what you have selected on your object, which is kind of helpful later on when you start doing more complicated models. Yeah, but what we're going to do with this is we're going to push these faces on the edge back, and then we're also going to push these faces down. Yeah, and if you notice doing this, it helps us avoid doing that like kind of like hands, left hand up, right hand down kind of dance. Yeah, and then vice versa. Okay, so all right, and then that'll be our wings. Okay, so again, all we did was we pushed it back. So push it back, and you can kind of push it back however much you want, and then we can kind of push it down just a little bit. Okay, and then we have a pretty good basic setup. Yeah. All right. Okay, so we have most of our spaceship here. In reality, we could probably pass this off as like kind of a done deal for our spaceship. Yeah, we could smooth it out and everything. I did kind of want everyone to kind of practice using the rotate tool when it comes to extruding as well, as that's probably the most difficult thing to do when you're doing extrudes. Yeah, so we are gonna jump to face mode again. We're selecting the top face, and then you're gonna do another extrude. Yeah, so you're gonna do another extrude up here. Okay, and then we're gonna grow up this top area, and this is going to be our base for the fin. Yeah, now it's gonna again look a little bit weird. I'm trying to keep this about the same height as the previous section, so we can kind of go up to here maybe. Yeah, And it's going to look terrible, kind of like the wings, or pretty much anything in my. When you start off, it usually ends up looking terrible, and then we are able to fix it. Now we're still in the extrude tool. Let's kind of add like a little bit more of a like a trapezoid kind of look at the top. So if you can find your green cube, yeah, which is going to be from front to back, yeah. If you can kind of scale that inwards, yeah. And again, we're looking for this trapezoid right over here, yeah. So that's kind of what we're going for. And then also from the front, what a look, yeah. We definitely want to kind of shrink that in as well. Okay, and what this will do is again, it'll create like a nice little, um, kind of change of direction. You also notice like it almost feels like we have, if you aren't looking too closely, it almost looks like we have three almost identical sections, yeah, over here. All right, okay, so we're about set to go. We're gonna make our fin. Now our fin is gonna be we're gonna use our setup extrude again. This is gonna be your sandwich extrude, yeah. So if you can go ahead and do another extrude. Again, remember this is a setup one, so all we're gonna do here is make our bread, and then meat or whatever's in the middle, and then bread again. Yeah, so we can kind of have those three things going on over there. Okay, and we're then gonna grow our fin out from here. Yeah. Okay, now here's where things get a little bit tricky and also visually even more awkward. I'm gonna ask you folks to extrude out a section. So we're gonna extrude out this section right up to here. Okay, it's gonna look really bad. Okay, but this is gonna be our basis for our fin, yeah, and our fin is gonna kind of go up and rotate, and then we're gonna have it kind of go around like this. Yeah, so it's almost gonna kind of look like the back of like an elf hat or something like that. Okay, so after we kind of bring this up, yeah, now we have a ball in the middle of your spaceship. Let's make some edits. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is, much like the bottom one, we're going to scale it inwards. Yeah, so much like the base, we're scaling that inwards. The other thing is we're also going to scale left to right. So if you can kind of scale this left to right. Okay, and that's going to be our fin. Okay, now our fin is going to have to head backwards, so we have to kind of signal that intent. Yeah, right now if we keep extruding, it's just going to grow up into the sky. Yeah, and that's not going to look very aerodynamic at all. Yeah, so our next step is we're going to rotate it. Okay, now notice we're still in our extrude tool. We can use that tool, but we have this crazy circle that no matter what angle, if you notice, it'll just kind of stay like in place. Yeah, so it's always a circle that is active. Yeah, which is cool in the sense that it's there for you, but it's also very misleading. Because if you try to do some things, and let's say I'm like at an angle over here, if I try to like turn this, because I know my fin's gonna be turning eventually, if I turn it right here, it's gonna look all right, right? Yeah, like I'm headed, turning it back, I am gonna be able to grow things back now. But if I rotate it further, you're gonna notice that, oh, it's kind of angling weird. Yeah, so you can kind of see like it's kind of turned weird over here. You can especially tell if I do something like this. Yeah, so if I'm on the outside, yeah, and I just use the outside circle, yeah, it's gonna bend weirdly. Yeah, so what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna activate the inner circles. Yeah, and so the inner circles is actually what we want to work with. So I'm gonna click on this light blue circle on the outside, click on it. Okay, and then that'll give me 4. And as soon as I click on it, let go. Yeah, it's gonna give me these other 3 interior manipulators. Yeah, what I'm then gonna do is click on the red one and rotate it. Yeah, so again, I'm clicking on red one over here. Used to be yellow. I'm making sure that I'm not overlapping with any of the other circles. So I'm not touching the blue, I'm not touching the red. Yeah, I'm just clicking on what was once red. Sorry, I'm not clicking on the blue and I'm not clicking on the green. Okay, and I'm gonna rotate this back. Yeah, and what you're gonna notice is here, this turns it in just that one direction. Yeah, so it doesn't let you move around in all 3 directions, kind of like how the exterior circle lets you. Yeah, so as you turn that one, it should look a lot better. Yeah, so it should look a lot better. Okay, so again, we're activating it. Yeah, click on the blue, then click on the red, rotate it back. When you take a look at it, okay, we should have the right angle now. All right, last thing I'm gonna ask you to do here is, we got the right angle. I'm then gonna use the move tool. Yeah, so I'm gonna press W, or I can press this button right here. Okay, and then we're gonna move this back. Yeah, I'm gonna probably jump back and forth between my move and my rotate. And if you remember, rotate is E. Yeah, but we're gonna kind of rotate that around so that it's facing in this direction. I can still rotate it further, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I kind of like this angle a little bit better. Okay, but again, notice I'm not touching this outside circle. Yeah, it's only the inside red circle, or yellow as it is now because it's selected. All right, now we have two more sections that I'm going to work with. So I'm going to then do another extrude. Okay, we're going to bring this new piece out. And if you notice, this angle plays a big part because instead of growing upwards now, because I was able to rotate it backwards, it's now going to grow straight backwards. Yeah, which is so much better than trying to fix it like how we were planning, probably having to deal with earlier. Okay, now same as with the previous section, yeah, we're going to shrink this new piece down. So I'm going to thin it out a bit. I'm also going to thin it out in the width direction, yeah, so in the X, yeah, so we'll scale that in a little bit. Again, not getting it to a point, but kind of getting it to right over here. Okay, and then I'm going to set myself up for the next portion. So I'm clicking on the circle real fast, boom, yeah, again, still in the extrude tool, grabbing the red circle, okay, and rotating that. And again, I'm setting myself with this angle over here because I want to have one more piece that kind of goes downwards over here. Okay, so I'm rotating it again and only using that red circle, which is now highlighted in yellow. Okay, and here's my last one. So I'm going to do one more extrude. Yeah, so here's my last extrude. So, and then this one I'm going to kind of grow outwards. Okay, and then if you notice, it kind of has that rainbow look, almost looks like a shrimp or croissant or something like that. Okay, what we're then going to do with this tip area is really thin it out. Yeah, so I'm going to go in the Z direction, scale that really thin. Then I'm also going to go in the, actually this should work out pretty well. Yeah, I kind of like just like it a little bit shorter. And then also in the X direction. Yeah, very, very slightly, make that also thinner. Yeah, and so it'll be getting thinner as it goes from base to the end. Yeah. Okay, last step I'm going to do here is before I start doing any more fine tuning is I'm going to rotate this so it's not just like a flat surface facing out that way. So I'm going to again click on still in the extrude tool, click on the circle, find the red circle in the inside. Yeah, that only turns in that one direction, and then I'll rotate it. And then we have a little bit of a nice angle going there. Okay, now this is not a setup one. This is more for aesthetics than anything else. Yeah. All right, now I can kind of take a look at this, and if you notice, I switch to object mode for a little bit. I can kind of take a look at this in my side view. Yeah, so if you can kind of switch your view to that. What you're probably going to notice here is, okay, the fin is very strong. Yeah, I don't mind it. But if you ever want to do any edits, I definitely, I'm thinking I'm going to be needing that here. So what you can do here is you can right click, and this time instead of staying in face, you're going to go to vertex mode. You can then select vertices. Yeah, so if you notice, I'm kind of selecting right over here. When I drag a rectangle, it's going to select all the vertices on both sides. Yeah, so anything that's kind of lying on top of each other. Yeah, and then right over here, I can kind of use my move tool. Yeah, so if I go to my W, I can kind of use that to bring that down. Maybe I'm bring that in just a bit. And other things I can do is I can kind of wiggle things. Yeah, so if I'm let's see this part right here, maybe I want this to be a little bit more rotated. Yeah, so I can kind of wiggle it here. I can also work with individual vertices, so maybe I want to kind of bring that down a little bit and then bring that in. Okay, and then for the end part, maybe right here is looking pretty good. Maybe I'll bring it down to here. Kind of like it a little bit more out actually. Yeah, so you can use these individual little points, yeah, with your selection to kind of make these little quick tweaks. Yeah, and even something like this where you just get this vertex, yeah, and you move it around. Yeah. Okay, now one of the good things about working on this in the front view is I can kind of go kind of wild on here. Okay, and it's not gonna like go in the X direction. Yeah, it's only gonna go in the Y and in the Z. Yeah, so that's the only two directions that lets me go. Really helpful when I'm doing kind of shaping for the fin. All right, so kind of figure out what you want your fin to look like. You may want to have a different fin than how mine does. I'm totally fine with that. But if you can make sure that it maintains these three sections and that each of the individual sections kind of flow into each other. Okay. All right, so we have most of our main structure in place now. Again, hopefully you've paused your video and kind of found the location that you want your friend, or appearance that you wanted your friend to kind of end up at. Now, the last thing we're going to do as far as structure goes is we're going to work on these back faces over here. So if you can right click, go into face mode. Okay, we're going to hold down, we're going to click on one back face, hold down the shift key, click on the second back face, yeah, and this will be on both sides of like the butt, yeah, of the spaceship. We're then going to extrude, yeah, so we'll extrude over here. Okay, and then again, your extrude will show up on the first one that you selected. Okay, we're going to do another picture frame extrude here because again, we want structure, but we also want to have like kind of like a propulsion at the back. So what I'm going to go and do here is using my extrude tool, I'm going to use my green cube. Yeah, I'm going to drag that towards the center. Yeah, and what that's going to do is it's going to kind of give me like this weird looking, almost sandwich kind of look. But we want this to be more picture frame than anything else. So then I'm going to also click on the red cube and drag that towards the center of the spaceship. Yeah, and then I'm basically looking out to make sure that I have a nice little shape over here. Now, if you notice while I was doing that, I'm totally ignoring what's happening on the other side because remember, because this model is so symmetrical, yeah, when I'm working on this side and doing those scales, when it goes to this other side will basically mirror what's happening there. Okay. All right. The last step is going to be we're going to extrude inwards, yeah, and that's going to be like again we'll have like that's where our propulsion will kind of be. So I'm going to do a Command E, or again we'll do our edit mesh extrude. Okay, and then for this next part, I kind of don't want to have it be angled like to the side. If you notice, this blue arrow is kind of diagonal. So instead of using this one to kind of push both of them in, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to jump to the move tool. Yeah, so if you can go ahead, press W or click on the move tool, and I'm going to click and drag that instead. And this will kind of drag this forward in a more controlled manner. Yeah, so kind of bring that forward. Again, be careful. You don't want this like shooting out the front. Yeah, that's weird. Okay, so we'll stop it off before it hits the anywhere close to this area. All right, okay, and so that's basically your spaceship. Yeah, again, a little bit of a departure from the furniture, but we hopefully were able to kind of like work our way through and get you folks a little bit more used to using the extrude tool, yeah, and what are the possibilities with it, yeah. So if you remember, again, we just started off with the cube, we named it, and then we turned it into something that is a lot more developed, yeah. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to show you folks is smoothing, yeah. So this is something that you can eventually do if you want to create things that are more organic looking. I'm going to end up taking this spaceship right here, yeah, and this is my manta ray ship. I'm going to duplicate it, so that's a Command D, yeah, so Command D as in dog, yeah, or Command D as in duplicate. That's probably a little bit more straightforward. I did my Command D. I'm going to bring this out. I'm going to rename this, yeah, and so it immediately tries to name it manta ray ship 1. Yeah, I'm going to rename that though, so I'm going to put smooth manta ray ship at the beginning of that one. Okay, and then we have that, and I'm going to also duplicate this once again to make a third one. Okay, this one I'm going to rename again. So instead of smooth manta ray ship 1, I'm going to call this smoother manta ray ship, yeah. All right, now this is something again you can use. I wouldn't suggest doing this for any models until like you're really near the end and you just kind of are like, okay, I like the structure. I just want to kind of get it into more organic or softer look. Be careful about doing this earlier than that, because what a smooth does is it creates a lot of new faces, and that makes the model like extremely hard to work with, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to select this right here. Here's how we smooth. It's super easy. We're just going to go to the mesh menu, and then we're going to choose smooth, yeah. So mesh and smooth, boom. Okay, and then what you're going to notice is, okay, now we have this one and its cousin right here. Okay, cousin has an increase in the number of faces. If we take a look at your smooth settings on here, okay, you'll notice that like, yeah, you have a bunch of different things going on, yeah. So you can actually change this up, but basically the layout for this is, I believe this model over here, for every single face that it has, I believe this one creates 4 faces, yeah. So for every face on here, there's 4 over here. Okay. Now what this is, so it's exponential growth, yeah. So I'm gonna go to the smoother one, yeah. And you notice this one still has a little bit of a boxy look to it. Okay. But if you go to this one and you do two smooths, so I'm gonna go mesh smooth one and then mesh smooth two. Okay. Immediately you'll notice, okay, way more faces. Okay, but also rounded areas way more smoother. Yeah. Now you'll notice the biggest jump is between the first one and the smooth one. Yeah, when we went from smooth to smoother, the model is not that much more like visually different, but you will be able to kind of like see the difference between the two. Yeah, this one does still feel a little bit more angular. Okay, now you can go in here and you can continue to smooth and smooth and smooth. However, this is like there is the law of diminishing returns. The more you smooth, the more it's not really gonna like be an improvement. In fact, it's kind of a detriment when you're working on big scene or anything else. The more faces that you have, the slower it takes to render, and it also is like a great way to kind of like create lag. Yeah, so or even freeze your computer. So I wouldn't necessarily suggest doing overdoing it. Like once it's the look you like this one right here is solid. Probably wouldn't continue to smooth this more than maybe one or two more times because after that it's just like it's not really going to make a difference, but you're taxing your computer resources. So anyway, here's our four spaceships. Yeah, again, hopefully you're able to kind of get a little bit more comfortable with the Extrude tool, and then yeah, we'll stick around. We're definitely gonna get into some other stuff for your room scene next.